What's up, Cuzzies? This is Coaster Bro from Coaster Cuzzies, and it is May 2020, and the parks still haven't reopened from coronavirus. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through my personal top 10 new for 2020 roller coasters that I am most excited for. Now, if you listen to the podcast Coaster Cuzzies, we do a whole show where the four hosts get together and we collectively come up with our top 10 coasters, but this is just my personal top 10. So let's roll into it. Starting off at number 10 is Emperor at SeaWorld San Diego. This is a B&M dive coaster, and it's actually going to be the smallest in the U.S. So in height and in length, it's just going to be pretty short. Now, it does look like it has the potential to really rise up this list because, and seeing some off-ride video of it, it actually looks like it's pretty snappy and pretty intense, which is not very common for a B&M dive coaster. So super excited for Emperor, and this might be the coaster that actually gets me to visit SeaWorld San Diego for the first time. All right, coming in at number 9, this ride's already opened. It is Six Flags Magic Mountain's West Coast Racers, and this is a premier launch coaster. You're going to see a lot of those on the list here. But what's unique about this ride is it has an actual racing element. While Twisted Colossus at the same park is supposed to have one, for some reason the park cannot get it to duel, which is pretty wild. So it looks like that problem's been fixed with West Coast Racers, and it looks like it's going to be a fun kind of family style, like introductory thrill ride. So it doesn't climb too high up the list, but for a park that honestly needs a lot of paint, it's good to see that they took their worst area at Six Flags Magic Mountain and put in a new attraction and gave it the West Coast Racer theme, which isn't my favorite, but I will take this heads and shoulders to whatever the heck that area used to be because it looked kind of run down. All right, at number 8, we have Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio. This is a GCI wooden roller coaster, which I'm a huge GCI fanboy, but this one still stays lower on my list because the layout doesn't look too exciting to me. There's a lot of swoopiness going on, and it's just a lot of turns instead of airtime. And you know, when I think about some of my favorite out and backs like Mystic Timbers, Prowler, White Lightning, I really like that out and back feeling. Not so many turns, just give me some airtime, out and back. Like, it's a good formula to me. So I think they're kind of going for the Texas Stingray feels. Like if you were a stingray, you'd be swooping through the water. I think that's what's going on there. So I think that's why the layout's kind of goofy, but comes in at number 8. I am excited for a new GCI coaster. Coming in at number 7 is Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. This is another multi-launch premier ride. So what's unique about this one is that it really feels like an impulse coaster to start because I believe it's a triple launch. You go forward, you go back up a spike, and then you go forward again, up over into the rest of the actual ride. Now, I usually don't like these multi-launch feelings because I think it messes with the pacing of the ride. Especially on Icebreaker, that kind of feels like the case. But once you get over the hump, it actually looks like a pretty good ride. There's no completely awesome standout elements, but there does look like there's going to be some good airtime on the thing. Number 6, we went to Kings Island for the Giga Coaster Orion. Now, when it comes to Giga Coasters, my number 1 coaster is actually Fury 325 at Carowinds. And while Fury is a great ride, when I go to other parks and think about the Giga coasters I've ridden, like Leviathan, Millennium Force, I-305, to name a few, they don't excite me. I actually expect more from them than I actually get. And I don't really like Giga coasters as much as I like a lot of hyper coasters. So some of you may say that's good because Orion isn't actually Giga coaster. You know, it's a few feet short. It's not tall enough, but the drop is 300 feet. So it's a Giga coaster boys. So let that one stop. But I'm okay. Like, it's gonna be fun. A Giga coaster at any park is good. So I actually do think it rounds out the lineup pretty well at Kings Island and gives a reason to go back. But I just don't have a lot of high expectations for it. Coming in at number 5 is Demonium at Hershey Park. But they announced that they were going to have a new entrance that's also going to have kind of a restaurant, bar, shopping area to go along with it. So I am most excited about that with the expansion. But the Hypercoaster Demonium actually looks pretty solid too. Now it is really kind of a standard looking B&M Hypercoaster, and the park already has an intimate Hypercoaster that is much more intense than what this is going to be. So I actually don't mind that there's going to be 2 Hypercoasters at this park, just because one is going to be super intense, and I do think Demonium is going to be more of a crowd pleaser. Coming in at number 4 is Ironwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa, and I'll get ready in the comments for this one, but I am not really excited for Ironwazi. This makes number 1, number 2 on a lot of people's list, but for me, this reminds me of Steel Vengeance, which for me was too intense. There weren't enough awesome good elements. It was just long and a lot of airtime, and honestly too long of a ride time. So I'm hoping that Ironwazi fixes kind of what Steel Vengeance was, because there's just a lot of comparisons going on between the two. But this is one of those rides that doesn't have a POV yet either. So the park's just really, playing to the coaster enthusiast excitement, because, gosh, you guys love this ride and you don't even know what it does yet. But Ironwazi number 4, it's going to be too intense. I hope it's not. I hope it's going to be like a top 10 ride, because it will be for a lot of enthusiasts, but for me, I don't think it's actually going to make that. Coming in at number 3 is the random single rail RMC coaster going in to Sioux Falls, South Dakota at some random water park called Wild Water West. Is there a Wild Water East? Does anyone know? Where would it be? Is that just in Iowa? It's just across the state line? Who knows? But what I'm actually most excited about for this ride, and I know it's probably going to be a Raptor clone that you see at California's Great America with Railblazer and Six Flags Fiesta Texas with Wonder Woman. But what I'm excited about is this is just a weekend or day trip for me from Kansas City. So an RMC within driving distance is absolutely going to make my top 3. And, I hear good things about intensity and pacing from this ride, that it's wild. So I'm just super excited that there's a reason to go to South Dakota ever, because I didn't think I'd ever go. At number 2, we have the multi-launch coaster coming to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. It is Pantheon, and this ride looks absolutely berserk. Now, early on, I didn't have a lot of expectations for this ride, but once that POV of the ride was released, I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty awesome. And usually I don't like the multi-launch coasters, but this ride actually uses it cleverly. So in the middle of the ride, you're going to go into the launch section, and you start to go up a kind of top hat looking element, and you don't have enough steam to make it up. So you start to go backwards up a spike, and then you launch over that hill, which I think is going to be hilarious for the general public who don't know what happens on that ride. It's going to be a great surprise. People are going to freak out. And add that with a lot of cool elements, like there's a ZRG stall in there. They're kind of starting to look like, I kind of like it, but Premier it looks like they're kind of ripping off some of the elements that you see in an RMC, which is, I think, pretty smart from Premier. So I think Pantheon is going to be a huge hit at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and any reason to go back to that park, I approve. Also, shout out to SeaWorld Entertainment for just adding a new awesome roller coaster to all their parks. All their parks made this top 10. Yeah, you might have furloughed all your employees through the coronavirus, but your coaster lineup's going to be pretty awesome when you reopen, if you have any employees left. On to number 1, my most anticipated roller coaster for 2020, and that is actually Jersey Devil at Six Flags Great Adventure. This is going to be the first bigger style Raptor track, which is, I think, good. So whenever I ride this POV, whenever I watch this POV, it looks like it's going to be an RMC kind of mixed with hypercoaster elements, which I like, because whenever I haven't rode the single rail coasters at Fiesta Texas or California's Great America, but this looks like it kind of stretches out the pacing a little more, which I like. It doesn't look like it's going to be as much bang bang, but it just looks like it's going to be a quality ride. There's good elements on it. It's a big single rail RMC. So what is there not to be excited for when it comes to Jersey Devil? So that concludes my top 10 new for 2020 coasters that I'm most excited for. Make sure you check out our podcast, Coaster Cuzzies, and also find us on social media at Coaster Cuzzies on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next time.